KKHT wants you to meet three of the classiest guys in real estate.
I am Chris Kelso, the maestro of mortgage.
I am Rob Cook, the godfather of real estate.
And I'm Joe Orsack, the king of credit swing. And together, we're
the Real Estate Rat Pack.
Much like us, real estate right now is smoking hot. So whether it's buying, selling, or owning, you need to check out the Real Estate Rat Pack.
They're here to take your calls and answer your questions live. Call now, 1-800-808-5548. And now, the Real Estate Rat Pack!
There it is.
Every week.
Without failure.
Without fail, so.
I quite like the giggling in the background.
Why would we want to fail at that?
Yes.
Giggles from the peanut gallery.
Anyway.
We have a great show in
gotta
store
count the
today.
thousands again in here.
Absolutely, like we always do. How else would we
I
roll?
love the confidence.
Yes.
We have a great show planned today.
Well, these people are going to make it great.
Yes.
For sure.
We have great guests planned. I don't know about our part of it.
Okay, I digress.
or regress.
Let's have a show.
Let's do it.
Why not?
Let's make it happen right here. You know, one of the things we always try to do is bring the best from around town, and today is no different, actually. A while ago, we were told we had some hotties that were calling in, and ended up being something else that are being calling in, by the way.
Got our attention right away.
Heidi was calling in, which is probably a hottie also,
Joe
by the way.
was very excited.
Yeah.
I'm like, what kind of computer lets this guy know a hottie's on the phone?
But we have ringleader to start off with right here, Mr. Frank Gray. He is with Remax, the Woodlands in Spring. Frank, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here.
Well, it is our pleasure. We would like to start off by asking, what got you into real estate?
Oh, gosh. Well, I guess like most people, I didn't go to kindergarten thinking that one day I'd grow up and be a real estate agent or a realtor.
You were considering being a billador.
Yeah. Had to get that trisyllable in there as early as possible.
Yeah, I finally broke Chris of the habit. It took me 2 years to break it. But I
2 years, and I finally got broken of it.
Yes. He's a great mortgage officer.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. Actually, I was going to be a pastor, a minister. And,
wow.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
How I have digressed.
Like the antithesis.
Well,
Yes.
now the balding head makes a lot more sense.
Yes. Now you know.
I have the same barber, so I know.
All the hair went in seminary. So
yeah. Yes.
No, I've had a pretty traditional career path all set, and went to college and grad school and started out in ministry and had a great experience. Decided to get my doctorate of all things.
Wow.
But had to get a real job to pay the bills while I was going to school. And that real job was in sales, and it turns out I really liked it. And it brought me in contact with all kinds of people that I would never have met otherwise. And I went ahead and finished that doctorate, but when I did, I decided to pursue a career in sales, but to shift over into the real estate market. At that time, my family was all down in Houston, and my mother was in the real estate industry. She set up some interviews for me, and I came down and was offered a position with the David Weekley Company out in the brand new community of Cinco Ranch.
Oh, wow.
Yes. This goes way back to the early 90s. But that was my introduction to real estate.
Well, that's a great introduction. And of course, out there,
Yes.
Cinco Ranch, it just blew up out there. It was,
Well, I can't even imagine what it was like. I can, because I know Cinco Ranch when I used to come in, and it was just beginning, and I wasn't living here, but I was actually visiting Houston. Nowadays, I live out there, and it's absolutely night and day difference, even in the past 8 years that I've been out there.
Where did you go to seminary at?
Yeah, a couple different places. I did my master's at Southwestern Seminary
very
in
nice.
Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah, great school.
And then did my doctorate at Covenant Seminary in St. Louis, Missouri.
Wow. Well, you chose a career that still keeps you very close to God.
Keeps me close to God. I'm still
You're definitely praying all the time. I hope this one closes today.
You have
I pray.
no idea how often I'm dealing with a client or even with another agent in my office, because I also have management responsibilities, and I'm like, man, this sure feels like the old days in ministry. Yes. You got the box
Dear
of Kleenex.
God.
Yes.
Please
Lord,
help
give me patience today.
Please help
Give me
this
the strength.
this appraiser see his way.
Yes. Precisely.
Yeah.
That is too funny. That's a running joke for the rest of the show
There
now.
we go. That's right. So talk about, you're now with Remax.
Yes,
and
sir.
You've formed a team. You've got two of your team members here.
Yes.
How did that start?
Well, a couple of years ago, I transitioned into a management and sales role. For most of the last 20 years, I've worked for the RE/MAX organization in a leadership role with regions, coaching broker owners and agents, but not having the opportunity to do personal sales. So 2 years ago, I transitioned into my current role in the Woodlands and Spring office, where I'm the recruiter and trainer for the office, but also have the opportunity to practice what I preach and actually sell some real estate.
I think you got to keep your hand in it. Otherwise, it's hard to advise or coach people if you hadn't experienced it in a long time. And I'll do 4 or 5 transactions a year just to keep my hand in it.
Yes.
Because otherwise, you kind of forget how challenging it can be.
Well, I shared with our agents from day one, I didn't want to train them from a manual, some ivory tower teacher who wasn't out there in the trenches with them.
Ivory tower teacher, I'm stealing that.
Yeah, there you go. So I started practicing what I preached, building a sales business from scratch, and started experiencing some pretty good success. I've been at it actually exactly 2 years now this month, and my business had grown to the point where I could not continue to do both, sales full-time and recruit and train agents full-time. It was just there's not enough hours in a day. And so I didn't want to give up either. I love my day job, recruiting and training agents. I love the income that comes from real estate sales and the face-to-face interaction with buyers and sellers. And so the solution to that was to form a team.
Leverage yourself. I mean, that's the number one thing to do if you're going to be very successful in this business and have a personal life.
Yes.
You have to learn how to leverage yourself.
Yes.
What do you find is the biggest challenge today in recruiting and bringing on new agents? I always like to ask that question because there's a lot of individuals, we made a joke, I can always go into real estate, but it's not as easy as what people make it out to be. I mean, it's actually, you got to take it professionally. It's a career path.
Only if you want to sell houses.
Yes, exactly. Yes. It has challenges to it, et cetera. But there's also challenging, I would imagine in recruiting and having individuals come on board, building that team, or recruiting for, RE/MAX, the Woodland Spring as well. What do you find some of those being?
Sure. Well, most people get into real estate because they love looking at pretty houses, and they like people.
Right.
And what they discover after a few months is they really don't like houses anymore, and they can't stand people any longer. And so, a real estate career becomes a challenge for most people. I'm sure you're aware 80% of people don't even make it to their first license renewal. It's a real challenge. The business appears very glamorous. Looks like easy money from the outside and a great lifestyle. Then the phone rings.
And they have to actually answer it.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes. So what I try to do is teach agents to take a business approach to their new career. Yes, you like looking at houses. Yes, you like people. But there is a frontal piece of the business called lead generation, where you have to really think of it like a business, build some systems, start planning, start reaching out to your sphere of influence, developing other sources of business, so that when you get that difficult client or that difficult transaction, it doesn't derail you and send you back to working at Home Depot or whatever you were doing before real estate. If you have a lot of clients, a lot of leads, a lot of opportunities lined up in your business, I think you'll have an opportunity to have staying power in the business. So that's what I try to teach agents.
You said a key word, is it treat it like a business. A lot of people don't treat it like a business. They just do it like, well, this is my income on here, and they don't have any kind of plan for marketing and spending money on here and there. They just, that's my paycheck, and they go out and spend it.
Well, yes. You touched on a couple of points. A hot button for me after yesterday, which I kind of mentioned earlier, I had an outbound referral from my company, a client ready to go, looking to purchase a home, and it was out of the Houston area. So this isn't against you, Houston realtors. You obviously all do this perfectly. It was in another state, and we called 15 agents in a row, 15,
yes,
without a single one of them answering their phone.
Yes.
The 16th person answered the phone and turned down the referral.
Oh, my goodness.
Because they were so busy. I'm like, yeah, you're the only freaking guy answering the phone. That's why you're busy. It was unbelievable.
Well, agents have this tendency to fall into a feast or famine mentality, and when business is good and they have clients, they put their entire focus on servicing those clients, and just like you experienced, turning down new business.
Yeah.
What we try to do is teach agents to build systems into their business, whether they're busy or not, with clients or not. There's always some lead generation going on in the background.
I need to pass the tithe plate.
Yes.
Preach! Preach! Can I get an amen?
Well, it's true. Again, we're looking for staying power in the business.
Yes.
We want to be doing this 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. And so you have to have those systems built where you're consistently bringing in new clients.
Yes.
You're absolutely right, because usually it goes up and down because of exactly what you're saying. They're servicing their existing clients, and they're not, I call it relationship building. You call it lead generation, but it's relationship building, and they're not taking the time to do that piece while they're busy with other stuff. And so, you know who one of the best people at doing that is Chris Kelso.
Is that right?
He does a lot of business, and he never stops generating new business. Ever.
Well, I tell everybody, when you get into the business, I mean, I've been with Willowbit now for 13 years, and one of the things that's been successful is you're always, as you mentioned, you're always having to be out there, and you have to learn how to successfully manage the client base that you have and generate additional client base moving forward. And that balancing of that system, and you mentioned something really important, it's about creating balance and about generating a team behind you. That way, when I'm out doing the activities, such as our bus trip on Thursday, by the way, what ends up happening is my team in the back end doesn't miss a beat, though. We're still processing, underwriting, pre-qualifying.
Right.
Everything is still moving along in that process, and that's the exact thing that you spoke about, which leads into this question I was going to ask you. Well, a company that does that very well is, and we're talking about a home builder, is David Weekley. They have some very good processes.
Can we invoice them?
Yes, exactly, right.
Okay.
That allows them to do so. So I would imagine some of that work in coming here, working for a new home builder, especially one of the big ones here in Houston, allowed you to sort of see those systems and processes in place as well, especially in real estate.
Absolutely. Yeah, the David Weekley Company is renowned for the quality of their training program. So for me, it was a wonderful introduction to the real estate business. And from that perspective in new home sales, I had exposure to all real estate companies in the market because agents from every different brand and no brand would come in and bring their clients into the model.
What do you think the biggest mistake people make? I'm going to put a team together, and then they fail, or they're moderately successful, but they're not hitting their stride.
Sure, great question. Many agents form a team because they are simply overwhelmed. They're disorganized, they're inefficient, they have a few clients, but they're behind on their paperwork, and so they think, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to form a team. I'm going to hire somebody else to help. But what happens is they end up just delegating their inefficiency.
Yeah.
And therefore multiplying ineffectiveness in their business.
Yes.
You can look at some of the top teams in the industry, and even though they're generating a massive amount of business, their bottom line is very skinny. In fact, you would be surprised how many top producing agents are actually in debt over their heads because they're not making money.
Not the least bit surprised.
Yeah, Rob, yeah, absolutely. You've come up close and personal with that.
You know, one of the things that I always like to say is that people, you obviously have a great ability to share a vision, and I think that's a big piece, is that you get buy-in that way, that everyone kind of has that same goal in the same direction. I see a lot of teams, they're just heading different directions. The team leaders competing with their agents.
Yes.
And I always think that's a huge error. Help them get business, not take their business.
Right. So what we teach agents is to get their own personal business as an individual agent, highly efficient and effective, completely eliminate waste and inefficiency out of their business, build their systems, actually write down what's in their head, get it on paper, so that then they can train another person to get the same results they're getting. Then as they begin to recruit and grow a team, now they're multiplying effectiveness and profitability rather than inefficiency.
And some harmony.
That's right.
And that's really important, because there's a lot of discord out there.
Well, one of the things I tell everybody is, before obviously being in this business, I was in the process and performance improvement, Six Sigma implementation, et cetera. So that's one of the things I really like hearing what Frank is talking about, is putting some of those performance and process improvements metrics and showing individuals how it is that you actually go by, build a business, and build it the correct way versus just earning money and adding people to the mix. There's a very big difference on that.
And there's even coaching out there that teaches that, they're doing all it wide instead of building it deep.
Right.
That's right.
And deep works, because that's a return business.
Yes.
And the ones that are just doing it wide, they'll do business one time with that person, and then they're gone.
Right.
And
Man, I definitely so on board with what you're saying. We went through E-Myth coaching, which is all. I mean, there's so many different flavors of it, but I see you nodding your head over there.
Yes.
It's all the same. Every business, doesn't matter what the business is. Every business has the same processes and workflows: lead generation, lead conversion, marketing, etc. All that stuff. And if you practice the art of building a business, then you can be successful. And that's I love what I hear you talking about. Frank, I know we're coming up against a break. We want to make sure that folks know how to get a hold of you. How do they reach out to you?
Sure. So my office is RE/MAX The Woodlands in Spring. I can be reached by cell 713-702-6978, or if you prefer email, it's Frank Gray, Gray, at remax.net. Would love to help.
That is Frank Gray at Remax, the Woodlands and Springs, 713-702-6978. He's not going anywhere. We have some additional members
we got the door locked.
of his team. We still have some hotties that are calling in. I mean, we have some individuals that are calling in, and we're going to have Frank back on. So stay tuned. We're taking a break. We'll be right back.
Lucky me, can't you see?